Hi there. Last week, Benioff and Weiss gave their first big public interview in over 4 years, since the aftermath of Game of Thrones Season 8 and the backlash to it. This big press panel to launch the first full trailer for their next big TV project, their first TV project in 4 years, this huge $200 million adaptation for Netflix of the Chinese sci-fi novel series Three Body Problem. And they gave a long form interview with the Hollywood Reporter, which was obviously a puff piece interview. This is with their usual mouthpiece, James Hibbard. I'm letting you know it is a long interview that is trying to put a positive spin on everything they've been through the past 4 years. But you can read through it, and there's a few new nuggets of information to glean from it. And they touched on everything from, like, you were suddenly dropped from Star Wars after how bad Season 8 was, and I talked about that in my preceding video. But for one paragraph, they did actually touch on something that, no, we are not going to forget that. It was a controversy at the time. That around the first week of Game of Thrones Season 7, this is back in 2017, they announced that their next TV show would be this bizarre-sounding alternate history show, Confederate, of what if the Confederacy won the U.S. Civil War and slavery still existed in the modern day. And keep in mind, this is what stopped their golden period where they were untouchable. That after all of the controversies from Season 5 with the Sansa rape, TV Dorne was itself racist, butchering Stannis, the Sansa rape thing, that doesn't happen in the books. It's utterly unrelated. And the New York Times was reporting on that controversy. Nonetheless, the hype media said, no, we're willing to ignore that. These guys are the new golden boys. And particularly, people forgot their criticisms after the empty spectacle of the big battle at the end of Season 6, which actually was full of plot holes. That from summer of 2016, end of Season 6, to summer of 2017, when Season 7 began a little late, there's this 12-month period that was the darkest time for book fandom, where this isn't the real story, this is actually deeply offensive, and they are untouchable. These are the guys who are going to be doing Star Wars next. These are the next J.J. Abrams, the next Spielbergs. And even looking back, and other news articles will need to cover this, just how much of a free pass the news media gave them and put them on a pedestal. The first crack in that was when, first week of Season 7, they said, here's this bizarre new TV show we want to do, Confederate. And they only put out a text-based press release about it. They never actually talked about it in an interview or on video. They never even tried to promote the idea. But the HBO said, we've greenlit it straight to production. That it's not just a tentative idea. Obviously, they're still filming Game of Thrones, but they said, we've greenlit it, it's what they're going to do next. And it was such a bizarre idea, and there was so much backlash to it, real backlash from major outlets that would not have spoken ill of them before that. It was refreshing, and they quietly let it drop eventually. After that one announcement, it was very strange. Why would you greenlight something only it's backlash? Then, normally when they greenlight things, there's more a presentation of it, and seemed like they half-assed it. So what was going on here? And then Season 7 itself had problems, and people were in denial. That was the weird part, where people would just, I don't want to talk about that Confederate thing we heard about. They're great. Season 8 will be the best season ever. And then Season 8 happened, and all the Star Wars stuff they got dropped from, but we never forgot just how weird that was. It kind of dominated the news cycle in 2017. The sheer audacity of it. So they do surprisingly cover this briefly. They touch on it in the Hollywood Reporter interview. They talk a little more about the Star Wars thing dropping, but they don't do that much. But there's a few pieces of information to glean from this that they never did before. Let me just read off the whole thing. And again, this is supposed to be self-serving. It's not a real interview. And Hibbard assuredly already gave them the questions ahead of time, and they are giving a pre-prepared answer with mock acting. Okay, but let me read it off. After Thrones, Benioff and Weiss's next TV project was supposed to be another HBO show, Confederate, a series order for which they brought on writers Malcolm Spellman and Nichelle Tramble-Spellman. There are a couple of writers there, both black. Confederate was envisioned as an alternative timeline drama in which the South has successfully seceded from the Union, slavery is still legal, and a new civil war looms. The idea was to tell an anti-racism story, but all corners slammed the concept as woefully wrong-headed, and the project blinked out of sight. When asked about the Confederate reaction, Benioff and Weiss looked stricken and take a long time to respond. "It's kind of a low point," Weiss says softly. "You try things that feel like they are worth doing, and some of them work out and some don't." That's all they said about this, but just keep in mind, Hibbert is laying the shit on for this. He's trying to put a spin on it. He told them he was going to ask that. They prepared their answer. They probably told him their answer ahead of time. That this wasn't on video. Just, and even if it was on video, they'd be play acting to the camera. Oh, they looked stricken and didn't know how to respond. You told them that this is all pre-rehearsed. Please talk about this in the comments. Was this pre-rehearsed or not? And they didn't give a straight answer, but first time they've ever talked about it in their own words is a direct quote. And the one piece of information we really got that's new is, I didn't know, is this an idea the Spellmans pitched that he latched onto? No. That is definitively no. They claim this was Benioff and Weiss's idea, and they brought on the Spellmans to help write it, allegedly. As this isn't racist, we have a black couple writing for us. But for a long time, I didn't know, maybe this was the Spellmans' idea and they just working their way into it, because they'd never done original stuff before. Now, way back then, when the first year of my channel, when I had terrible audio, I've taken this video down, I think. I did this really brief, it was like 7 points of why this is a terrible idea. And I don't think I'll have time to remake that now, I wish I did, but among other things I said, what if the South won the Civil War is the second most popular alternate history story idea, short of what if the Nazis won World War II. This isn't an original idea. There are numerous books like that. In good faith, science fiction novels who are trying to explore that as a concept. My favorites are the Timeline 191 alternate history series by Harry Turtledove, which sort of realistically shows, well, okay, they wouldn't keep doing slavery up to the modern day because, what with the Industrial Revolution by the 1880s, even the South says, we have factories now, we don't need to do that. Not that things are doing well for the technically freed blacks in the South. It's like, the comparisons, it's like apartheid. And that they're this underclass, and it's terrible racism and all this, but it felt like a logical progression. It's a thought experiment of famous book series, Timeline 191, the Southern Victory series by Harry Turtledove, and then the South and the U.S. join opposite sides in the World Wars, because the South would only win if they got Britain and France on their side, so the U.S. allies with Kaiser Wilhelm's Germany, and the historical analogs and ripple effects of that going forward. But other reasons, why is this a terrible idea? Keep in mind, an adaptation of The Man in the High Castle was already on TV at the time, which was what if the Nazis and the Japanese won World War II. That was already on. I think Amazon, I've seen it, the direction on that is very good. How is that any different than this? And I think, again, this was the golden period. We're coming off of Season 6. These guys were invincible. People were dancing around saying, we don't want these specific guys to be telling this story because we swept under the rug that they write women terribly, they write non-white people, people of color terribly, and we were willing to put up with it, but no one, I'm upset that the moral cowardice that at the time, people didn't want to verbalize that we are uncomfortable with specifically these guys. Because any story about slavery would inherently need to involve the systematized rape factory that was the slavery system. And they had just come off a rape controversy with the Sansa stuff that you have no idea how much this is going to touch on everything. And on top of that, they suggested this in 2017 after a wave of racial tension in the United States. Maybe that's why they thought it would be relevant at the time, or at least the people they pitched to thought it was serious. So I actually kind of think there could be a good TV adaptation of the works of Harry Turtledove, but this alternate history war thing, but they of all people should not be running it, and it sounded like they came up with a ripoff. It's as if they said, we have this great story about what if the Nazis won World War II, and we're like, you of all people we don't trust to tell something graphic. And or something like the Rwandan genocide or something and on top of that it's a generic idea. This isn't clever. You're ripping off several books in this. What is going on? At the time, I said, and this is the point of this video, if you haven't been paying attention, drop your snacks now. I think this was a fake pitch. I thought it was fake then. I'm sure it's fake now. And if you've ever seen Mel Brooks's The Producers, Confederate was a Bialystok and Bloom production. You've seen this parodied in other things, that they wanted to leave HBO. So to get out of their contract or convince HBO we don't want you anymore, they intentionally pitched only terrible ideas that no one would want to do. The springtime for Hitler thing in that, or there's a couple of other examples of this. I keep thinking of Rocko's Modern Life. He pitched this idea of what if we had singing, talking deli meats as a cartoon show, Wacky Deli, and they actually run with it. But that wasn't trying to be offensive, that was just trying to be stupid. That this was trying to be offensive. There's another show, Bamboozled, which was like, what if we have a real minstrel show? But it turned into a hit by accident. That was in a movie. That they picked an intentionally offensive idea that they had no intention of really making. Why do I say this? I said it at the time because, as we later learned after 2017, this came out in the aftermath of Season 8, HBO put out a self-serving, it's all self-serving, it's how you play them off against each other. The HBO executives put out this self-serving book about how they ran HBO until AT&T bought them out, called Tinderbox. And in Tinderbox, they surprisingly contradicted that Benioff and Weiss are great guys. And they revealed, and I'm putting this on the screen here, that after the success of Season 6, they came in and said, we don't want to do a full run of 10 seasons. We want the final season to be a pair of Hollywood movies, theatrically released movies, which will be a stepping stone in our career to turning into big Star Wars movie producers. And also with Hibbard's own book inadvertently admits this. Hibbard said, well, they swore me to secrecy, but back in the filming of Season 3, they said to me, we are planning on making the final season a pair of movies. HBO would never do that, so we're going to tell them so late in production that it's too late for them to stop us. So they didn't care about Game of Thrones, they didn't care about HBO. They were planning to betray them for 3 years. And imagine what that conversation was like in the room. And I've been self-consciously planning to do this for 3 years, and I intentionally waited until it was too late for you to do anything else. Problem is, he's an idiot, so HBO guys are like Lombardo and Plepler are staring at them going, we can't physically do that. We never would. Our subscribers would revolt en masse if we made just not a tie-in movie like Sex and the City or the Sopranos prequel thing, but there is no finale season. It's a theatrical movie. We don't do that. You idiot. It's not something you can strong-arm us into doing. We physically won't. It's not that we won't, we can't. And all you've done is wasted 3 years that you could have spent planning out your final season, even taking as a given that you wanted to rush the ending and leave with a truncated 7th or 8th season. This is time you could have spent working on them as 6-episode scripts instead of 2 movie scripts. That's one of the many reasons Season 8 is so bad, is it was a movie script turned into episodes at the last minute. And on top of it, and like Hibbard's book, he admits this. They say, our hope is that we know we're rushing it, but our hope is there's so much spectacle in a theatrical movie in terms of the increased budget for special effects that people won't notice that the story is rushed. Like, they said that out loud in words. But the point here is, at the time in 2017, we tried to guess about this, and I thought at the time maybe it's trying to get out of a contract by suggesting a dumb idea, but I can't really confirm that. After Season 8 came out, in the past 5 years since we heard about Confederate, no, not 5 years, going on 7 years now maybe, almost 7 years since we heard about this. This book came out where HBO said there was a private meeting in the aftermath of season 6 where they said, now that it's too late for you to change anything, we want to launch our movie careers by having the final season as a pair of movies. We have no intention of staying here at HBO. We want to be movie producers. Now put 2 and 2 together. We have these print statements, we want to launch a movie career, and them claiming a year later, months later, mid-2017, we want to do a new TV show called Confederate for HBO, when we know they were trying to launch their movie careers. There is no way that they intended this as a serious project. We know behind the scenes they were already intending to go to movies. So, this is a catch-up for 6, almost 7 years ago, in case you've been following things since then. And I hope one day, somehow, someone confronts them in as many words. Was this a fake pitch to get out of your contract? That you intentionally pitched something so offensive that they wouldn't let you out on it? And this ties in with that HBO didn't promote it well. Think about that. They said at the time, maybe we shouldn't have just put out a press release and in text only, and we greenlit it straight to series. Normally what we do when we pitch a new thing is we have a big video event, a panel, where the writers come out and talk about their show. Notice that they didn't do that for Confederate. They easily could have. My running guess is that when they presented Confederate to HBO, HBO kind of half knew that Confederate was a fake pitch and were infuriated with them. Because they had already been told them to their face, oh, we want to leave to do movies. You have to do one more TV show for us. Okay, how about a show where the Confederacy won the war and I'll be handling modern-day slavery of black people in the United States? And they could tell. I mean, I know they're stupid, but they must have realized you suggested a crazy idea just to screw. You're not have no intention of being serious about this. And that's what really bothers me about the morons who ran all these big companies into the ground before the streamers beat them out. They really thought they were in charge of and could control these showrunners who they had no supervision over. And at least go, oh, they depend on us for renewal. They'll suggest a terrible idea to jump ship. They've done it before. The short-sightedness of, well, they're loyal, or, well, they need me, or they're under contract. They'll suggest bad ideas to get out of it. It's happened before. It's stunning that they played you like this multiple times. These are also the guys that got played after the failed pilot. But I think Confederate was a fake pitch, and HBO put them... Basically, their idea was, oh, you're going to suggest a fake pitch. I'll greenlight it and make a press release about it, and let's hope that the public blames you more than they blame us. I think that was HBO's hope, at least, that it would reflect more on Benioff and Weiss than on the executives themselves. It kind of did both. Everyone was considered a fool. I think, at the time, Richard Plepler made a press release for it with bare minimum effort, not to promote it, but just enough that it would tarnish Benioff and Weiss. For if you're going to suggest a stupid idea to get out of a contract, I'll sarcastically present it as a real pitch. Because that is screwing us over, regardless of the fact it was deeply offensive. And talk about this in the comments, like, when you have Bialystok and Bloom-like situations, is it ever... They probably go, well, look, yeah, it was offensive, we had no intention of really making it. Like, if you had this Bialystok and Bloom type thing, if I'm going to be eating babies on screen or something, and later go, I was sarcastic, I was just getting out of a contract. I think, tell me in the comments, I think the point is, you have to immediately come forward and say, that was a fake pitch, now that I'm out of that contract. Like, as soon as they left HBO, when they were trying to do Star Wars, or when they went to Netflix, or even this very interview, this is their grand return, if they had said, well, we were really tricking HBO to get out of our contract, it would make them look sneaky, but it would have rehabilitated their public persona for all of this. And I think they went through the bare minimum of steps to make it look like they were really intending to do it, like hire up a married couple of black screenwriters to give the token appearance that I'm not crazy, and seriously intend to make this as a TV show. But this was an act. We have these later comments from the HBO book saying they wanted to leave to do movies, and there is no way that they intended to stay for any other show, much less this really offensive sounding one. And someone somewhere should bring this up in the news. What the hell happened with Confederate? And it is deeply offensive to pull that kind of thing with a Bialystok and Bloom situation. Just, I hope someone somewhere won't let this die, because at the time it was the top news from the top show on HBO. And even the idea that it was a trick is deeply offensive and shames just how out of control HBO was at the time, that they could not rein him in.